driving through a snowstorm when I did the interview with you guys. It was great, right?
That's right.
And like, I have some updates for you guys. So
Okay.
one of my big beats in 2024 and 2025 had to do with perceived racial bias in the New Jersey permit to carry, issuing and denial. So I found and uncovered that blacks are being denied more than double whites for their permits to carry. And this is for non-criminal reasons. This is a subjective standard. So
Due process down the train.
So yeah, New Jersey still has a subjective standard on the books that's used. It's got limited recently from a case in state court that was, very good. But is it perfect? No. But we're getting there. But anyhow, the long story short on that is a independent group went and did a study of their own when they saw my research, and they were like, "Well, this guy's wrong." Yeah, he's like, black people are not being denied double the rate of whites. He said, well, we're going to normalize the data. They got statisticians involved.
Yeah.
It's actually 10 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
So black people are being denied 10 times more than whites for their permits to carry in the Garden State. So I've been covering this for a couple of years now, and I've been interacting the best of my ability with the government officials in New Jersey, trying to get comment from them, trying to get them to take ownership of this. And last year's update was where legislation was introduced to actually statutize the tracking of all of this, as well as an explanation from the Attorney General of what's going on. Well, also towards the end of last year, which we didn't really talk about, was I was also looking into retired police officer permits to carry. So now retired police officers have a completely different permit to carry than, I hate to say civilian carriers, but
Right.
civilian carriers, because if you're a retired police officer, you kind of are a civilian now, right?
Yeah,
You've
absolutely.
entered back into the world of the rest of the people. And so anyhow, that data is not included in the permit to carry dashboard that the Attorney General put together with the state police. So I said, well, let me start out easy. Let me dip my toes into the water. And I put it in what's called an Open Public Records Act request. So it's basically a FOIA, right? It's the same thing as a FOIA. And all I was looking for was the number of permits that were issued to retired police officers in like a 2-year period. And I sent one to the New Jersey State Police, and I sent one to the Attorney General. Attorney General got back to me quick. And he's like, well, we see that you're doing a records request with the New Jersey State Police, which is good because that's where you're supposed to get that information. So we're denying it on the grounds that we don't have that information. But we see you've got an OPRA already open.
Mm-hmm.
Godspeed to you. Okay. So I ended up getting notification from the state police that they were looking for extra time to fulfill the records request. I was like, okay, this is actually a good sign. I didn't get a denial.
Right.
Well, shortly after that, I did get that denial.
Of course.
So the New Jersey State Police is like, nope, we think that your request is, overbroad, it's improper, and you don't have a right to this information under, Records Act law or under common law either. They said, you're looking for information, you're not looking for records, blah, 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 a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So I went in and said, all right, let me put in another records request. I put in a records request for the amount of revenue that was generated. How much money did the state collect for retired police officer permits?
That's smart.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and there was this, it's ultra technical, my plan, right? So I had this, I got involved with a witch doctor and we really talked about it. And I said, if I get the amount of money that was collected, I could divide it by how much the permits cost.
Yeah.
And that would give me the number of permits issued.
Math, it's everywhere.
So
Sure.
I think
Not Common Core.
the state of New Jersey was maybe, keen to this.
Oh, they
they
were.
were
Wow.
keen to this, and they denied my records request.
Oh,
They said it was improper, it was overbroad, and I'm looking for information. I'm not looking for a record.
same stuff.
And it's like, well, here's the thing: asking about money,
Yeah.
this is no different than asking about tax data. Actually, asking about the number of permit carry holders that are retired police officers should be public information. Period. End of story. Full stop. I said, okay, let's try this again. Let's take another bite at this apple. So now this is 2025 spilling into 2026. Now we're into 2026. I put in another records request, and I said I want every single application from retired police officers over the last 2 years, redact the name, redact the addresses, redact all the personal identifying
Now you're getting
information.
more finite.
All I want is their sex, their race, the status of their license, if it was issued or if it was denied, their jurisdiction, so I can chase where these places are, where they are at, and redacted. But I'm also, if you don't want to give me that, I'm happy to take a tabulated result. If you want to give me the actual statistics in lieu of giving me all of the permits, the permit applications, I'm cool with that too.
Trying to make their job easier, like, give them this or give them this. This
right.
is easier for them.
There's a record of the applications. You cannot say that that's not a record. There's a record of it somewhere.
Yeah.
So, and I'm asking for it redacted. I don't want anything special.
So you're telling them because they come back, oh, that's too broad. You're heading that off. That's good.
Exactly. Well, you would think so. And can you guess what they said?
No.
They said it was too broad. I didn't head it off. They said it's improper, too broad. This information's not subject under
There's
Oprah.
like copy and pasting.
Almost. I could probably like verbatim.
Yeah, wow.
So I'm like, okay, there's frustrations. They're building. And so what do? I send an email to the records custodian over there. And all the while I'm interacting with them. It's just I'm getting these impersonal emails.
Right.
Impersonal messages about this stuff. So I write to the records custodian and I said, hey, what's the deal with this? I'm putting in these records requests and I'm looking for this data. There's nothing nefarious here. I'm an actual journalist. I'm doing work that has journalistic integrity. There's no ahas here. There's nothing weird. And they wrote me back and they said, well, this information's not subject to Oprah, and making a common law claim to it. So I made a common law claim to it too in New Jersey, the state of New Jersey. You can do a common law claim. And they said, well, it's also your interest doesn't outweigh the state's interest for this information to be public. And so, well, whose interests, like at this juncture, are you kidding me?
Right. And you're not asking for personal information.
Yeah.
You're asking for general information of how many licenses. So it's like, how's it going to hurt them?
That was it. But at this point, I was asking
and
for
you're seeking it out under the auspice of an investigative journalist, which is, protected under the Second Amendment.
Right. So,
I'm sorry, the First
Amendment. You're absolutely correct. And I was doing this in baby steps, but what I want is all of that information so I could see if there's the same level of bias in the retired police officers as there is with the non-police officer permits, the civilian carriers.
Right.
Or maybe worse yet, there's no bias. Like, at least if there's bias, at least they're being ugly to everyone, right? Is there preferential treatment? Like, is this a universal perceived racism? I don't want to say it is racism, it's perceived racism, right?
Yeah.
So they said all that, and that's not subject to the laws, and I'm not allowed to get that information. But if you want to, you could sue us. So I'm happy to announce that I've filed John Petrolino versus New Jersey State Police versus the State Police and versus State Trooper X. You might ask me, why State Trooper X? Like, can we name names? I would love to name names.
You don't know?
But the problem is they keep not signing the denials. They keep not signing the emails.
Yep.
And by law, they're supposed to identify themselves.
Right.
Yeah. When we sued in Pennsylvania, we couldn't sue the state police, so we had to sue an individual.
Sure.
But so you can sue the entity, the state police?
Yeah, we're suing the New Jersey State Police and Trooper X, whoever he is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's going on. My hearing originally was scheduled for and should be my first court date, April, I believe, 28th. So it's just around the corner. Now, I haven't checked the status of it. I got to actually, I've been very busy the last few days, so that could have changed. I'm not 100% sure. But it's supposed to be then, and I should get some sort of an answer to some of these questions. Now, we're fully prepared to take this all the way up to the New Jersey State Supreme Court if we have to. We want this information. This information should be public. Now, I have confidence that we will get this information. I don't have any doubts about that. That's not my concern. My concern is, okay, now what happens next year when I want to get the next 2-year periods?
Right.
And you're like, why 2-year periods? Because the permits are only good for 2 years. So in order to get a full picture of how many valid permits there were in a year or at a given time, you have to get that full 2-year period every year and that overlap to see how many have expired or whatever.
Right.
So that's kind of what I got going on right now.
So
sorry, I want to make sure this makes it in there.
You
There
got
you go.
my there we go. It's beautiful.
I was going to say, so you must be independently wealthy, funding this all yourself.
Well, we're not really worried about funding on this, right? So we're not doing any fundraising for it or anything like that. But one day down the line, there might be a call to action. If we come to that, we'll come to that. But right now we're good. Right now we're doing well.
Court cases are expensive and long, man.
Yeah.
But I applaud you for doing that. That's fantastic.
If you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. And
Yeah.
this information is information that should be publicly made available for everyone, not just for me, not just for my readers. So I'm hoping this will enact some change and add more transparency to administrations that keep saying they're going to be the most transparent administration ever. Now, we got a new governor this year, so Mikey Sherrill, and before that we had Phil Murphy, and they said we're the most transparent and we're the this, we're the that, and this was happening on their watch. It started while they were still in power. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to connect with the ball while they were still in office. But again, we've got this situation where saying, okay, we're transparent. Are you really that transparent? So we'll see what happens.
Often we're the most transparent.
Yeah.
They are because they say so.
Right.
You ready? Are they transparent?
I hear. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to say they're not transparent.
So what I fear is they finally give you a big file of stuff. You get a document that everything is redacted
the government highlighter.
with all the and there'll just be a couple words that poke out, and the whole page. Epstein did not hang himself.
Permit carry issued.
Yeah.
Permit carried, and then that one's blocked out. I was like, yeah, no, the government highlighter, they like to take those out. I get a lot of government highlighter stuff. So yeah, but we'll see what happens. I'm very confident that we'll get full release of the records and we'll be able to put it to use. It's just I don't want to have to keep fighting this fight. It needs to just become public.
Yeah, I just wonder, what does it serve to hold that? Well, one would make the assumption, and this is an assumption, pure speculation. But why would you want to hide that information? Why wouldn't you want to provide it? So human nature is, well, then they're hiding something. Then they don't want you to have it because maybe what you said is absolutely true.
It's no different than if you've got the good cop, bad cop scenario, right? And you're saying, well, if you've got nothing to hide, why won't you let me in your house? If you've got nothing to hide, why won't you let me look at my car?
Well, as an individual citizen, though, you have the constitutional right, but the government has.
But if they have nothing to hide, why won't they show it?
Right.
Exactly. That's all I'm saying.
The government works for the people.
Exactly. I'm talking about concepts, not even rights at this point.
Yeah.
Now, the rights, I have a First Amendment right to get this information. That's part of our claims. So that's where we're at in the Garden State. I said the Great Garden State, New Jersey.
So John Petrolino, the Penn Patriot, decoding firearms, podcaster, interviewer, reviewer, legal scholar now, attorney.
No attorney. I'm not a podcaster. I'm just a lazy writer that likes to. I'm a lazy writer.
This is a lazy writer.
I'm a lazy writer. So that's all I am. So. You can find me online at thepenpatriot.com. I'm always looking for news tips. I'm always looking to help people out. So if you guys want to reach out to me, you want to give me love mail, hate mail, or news tips, you can email me at john@thepenpatriot.com. You can find me on Facebook there as well and all the socials. Just look for me. I'll be there.
Always good to have you, my friend.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much, brother.
MeetThePressers.com/giveaways to get on or $1,000 in prizes from a bunch of sponsors. And if you're here, check out Clint and I both have. Oh, thank you. Clint and I both have classes today, this afternoon. So if you're here at the NRA annual meeting and exhibits in Houston, Texas, 2026, come and check us out. We'd love to shake your hand and say hi. Stay safe.